Today, I want to talk about a booklet that we got in the mail here at the Abbey a couple months ago. It's called Welcoming the Rainbow, a guide to LGBTQIA+ inclusion for Buddhists. So first of all, I beg your pardon for that long acronym, which I'll be repeating multiple times throughout this talk. So Welcoming the Rainbow booklet, it was produced by a group in Sydney, Australia called Rainbody Buddhist Community. And they identify themselves as a spiritual friendship group and advocate for inclusion and diversity in the broader Buddhist community. Rainbody produced this booklet in order to promote diversity awareness and understanding amongst Buddhist centers, temples, and organizations. And the booklet introduces basic LGBTQIA+ terminology and recommends steps that Buddhist centers can take to make them safer spaces and more welcoming for the rainbow community. So the book was written by a monk, Bhante Akaliko, and illustrated by another Venerable Yoda. And it was printed with the support of people from around the world who sent in donations. And then Rainbody sent hard copies of the book to Buddhist centers throughout Europe, Asia, and North America, including Sravasti Abbey. So religious institutions are often pretty conservative when it comes to social values, and they often speak out against unconventional sexual expression or lifestyles. And in the United States, religious organizations have been some of the most outspoken opponents of the LGBT rights movement. So therefore, some feel that there's a need for religious institutions to reach out to the LGBT+ community to let them know that they're welcome and will be safe if they decide to come to their center. The Rainbody website says, spirituality is an intrinsic part of being human. It should be a source of connection and wisdom in our lives, rather than division and despair. Rainbody's message is that it's okay to be queer and gender diverse and also be a Buddhist. You don't have to choose between these two parts of yourself. We want our Rainbody community to know that they are welcomed, accepted, and loved for who they are. Everyone deserves love and compassion. These are fundamental Buddhist values. There have always been queer and trans people in religious life, and it's important for us to acknowledge that with pride publicly. So for those who may not know the acronym, what it stands for, it's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual. And the plus indicates other possible identities, which may be a combination of these things or something else. And this acronym is also known as the rainbow acronym because it's made up of many different identities, just like a rainbow is made up of different colors. But all of these subgroups face things in common, and the book points to prejudice, discrimination, legal barriers, and violence. For example, 72 countries around the world criminalize consensual sexual activity between men, and 44 countries criminalize consensual sexual activity between women. And even 11 countries have the death penalty for consensual same-sex activity. The booklet notes how the Buddha often spoke against discrimination and said that all beings deserve love without exception. And since all people are capable of reaching enlightenment, Buddhist organizations need to make sure they don't exclude anyone accidentally. One interesting thing is that Rainbody sponsored some research that was conducted by Darwin University that interviewed LGBTQIA+ Buddhists about their experiences at Dharma centers. And 61% of the respondents felt that the centers were either silent or ignored LGBT+ issues and people. 37% had heard or seen homophobia, and 16% had been told that their sexual or gender identity was inconsistent with Buddhist teachings. So the results showed that Buddhist centers are not always safe spaces for LGBT+ people. And Rainbody believes that acknowledging the existence of discrimination and prejudice is the necessary first step in making these places more safe and inclusive. So the booklet recommends a number of actions Buddhist organizations can take to promote inclusion and to show support for the rainbow community, such as undertaking LGBTQIA+ diversity and inclusion training, using posters or stickers to show support, such as including a safe space rainbow symbol on their website and publicity materials, holding a pride event for the rainbow community, or participating in a local pride event. And the Abbey has participated in interfaith pride events in the Spokane area for quite a few years. And then last is creating publicly available safeguarding processes that allow people to raise issues and concerns about discrimination and prejudice and ensure that there will be follow-up and resolution. So some of the main barriers to inclusion at Buddhist centers identified in the booklet are registration forms that do not allow for a third gender, toilets that are exclusively male or female, gender-segregated seating, and gender-segregated housing or accommodation. So the Abbey has unisex bathrooms, and our seating is not gender-segregated. And most of the accommodation is gender-segregated, although there may be options for people to stay alone depending on when they visit. The booklet goes on to discourage language that is considered disrespectful, but people may not know about. One term is homosexual. That's apparently an outdated term, which is news. And it also recommends gender-neutral language, such as everyone, instead of addressing an audience as brothers and sisters, and using partners instead of husbands and wives. And it also includes information on how to use pronouns correctly, which is a source of confusion for so many people, I know. So there's one section called A Note About Non-Self that contains guidance on how to relate the unique Buddhist teaching on not self to the rainbow community. And I thought this was one of the most helpful parts of the booklet, so I'd like to quote from it. And it says, some Buddhists unfairly accuse LGBTQIA people of being obsessed with their identities or clinging to an idea of self. They point to the Buddhist doctrine of anatta or not self and insist that these identities are merely illusory and don't actually exist. Or they claim that focusing on identity is contrary to Buddhist teaching, and this is why LGBTQIA+ people suffer. It's important to remember that sexuality and gender are a fundamental part of being human. Suggesting that these aspects of a person are somehow not real or unimportant is a mistaken view and misuse of doctrine. It denies the reality of people's lived experience and erases important parts of their life, like relationships, community, or work. Therefore, it's important that Buddhists think carefully about how they talk about not self to people who experience oppression as a result of their identity. Otherwise, instead of being a useful tool for personal growth, not self can become a weapon that harms others. This weaponized anatta can feel like just another unfair attack on the LGBTQIA+ people. And then the booklet ends with a guide to all the various identities in this group, including definitions and other information. And I thought the booklet did a really nice job of explaining how Buddhist centers can become more sensitive to the needs of LGBTQIA+ people and support their spiritual growth. And in this way, the key Buddhist values of loving kindness, compassion, equanimity can benefit these marginalized members of society who often are really in need of guidance and support. And just wanted to note that Sravasti Abbey is listed on the Rainbodhi website as an international LGBTQIA+ friendly monastery and organization. And actually the best part about the book I thought was the illustrations. So I just wanted to show a few. They're very cute. And it's funny that they were drawn by a monastic because the monastics look kind of scruffy. Thank you.